So attendees, it's time now for us for a panel discussion on how to rank in Google searches in 2021 and beyond. So we have our moderator, Ms. Veronika Holler. Hi, Veronika.
Hi.
So she's a senior SEO manager at UnitedAds, and we have our panelist, Mr. Tim Cameron. Tim Cameron as a CEO, Exposure Ninja. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Tim.
Hey, thank you for having me. Pleased to be here.
And I welcome Ms. Anđelka, CEO, Symbiotica. Hi.
Hello.
And Ms. Elvina Bulat, Marketing Manager at Lair East Labs.
Hello.
Hi. And Mr. Sumukh Lohani, Digital Marketing Expert covered by Sage. Hi, Sumukh.
Hey guys, excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So over to you, panel. Veronika, you can take over on how to rank in Google searches in 2021 and beyond. Thank you.
Hi, guys. So I'm happy to be here. It's my first time as a host. So I hope we have a good panel. So I don't know if somebody from you have some slides to want to share. So who wants to start?
I can start with my presentation.
Perfect.
And talk about some trends. Maybe it will be good at the beginning to discuss something later, like in detail.
Perfect.
So let me share my screen. Hi, all. It's great to be here today, and let's talk about some SEO trends. What to watch for in 2021 and probably the next year. Some of these trends are quite not very new, but I think it's important to talk about them and highlight, tell people why we should follow them and implement some SEO strategies, some relevant SEO strategies. So within the next 10 minutes, I will tell about 6 trends to watch, and you will learn why you might need inclusive web design, how to improve your local SEO, and what are zero-click search, and why it's not always bad for your business. Let's start with voice search optimization. Actually, voice search keeps growing as more and more people purchase the mobile devices with voice assistants. So overall, it's quite normal for human being to ask questions verbally and communicate by using voice. That's why it's important for brands to create content for voice searches, for voice queries. Right now, also it's quite important to keep in mind that quite often voice searches are used by people who are at the consideration stage. So they are probably high opportunity what they are going to buy as services. And for example, if you're trying to create content for voice search, try to answer such questions as who, what, where, and for example, how. Another trend is mobile friendliness. So right now, it's not enough to have just a very a good-looking desktop website. Your web pages should be optimized for mobile devices, as more and more people are using cell phones, and to ensure very positive user experience, and try to pay more attention to page speed, to your titles like headings, meta descriptions, because people are using mobile devices and their screen space is very limited. So that's why your headlines should be very quite short. Also try to you can use responsive web design in order to adapt your content to various mobile devices, tablets, etc. Another trend is zero-click searches. So actually, Google algorithm allows users to get answers to their questions right on the results page. On the one hand, you can lose your web traffic, but on the other hand, it can be a good tool to build awareness around your brand and provide very like short, specific information that can help your customers immediately. Quite often, these zero-click searches, they use people who would like to find very like quick facts, who would like to find very like some local business details, or who prefer like trying to reformulate their queries, because, for example, the first one was not good enough, and the result what they got were not like very like relevant. So that's not. So keep in mind that's not very like it's not bad for business, but it can be a really good tool to really grab attention to your content and to your website and your business. So try to keep, if you're a local business, try to keep your, for example, Google My Business page up to date in order to help people really find the most relevant and most up-to-date information. The next trend is a local SEO. I think that SEO is getting very quite local right now, because our mobile devices can automatically pull location data and suggest relevant services, for example, nearby. So as I mentioned above, try to keep up to date your online business listings, social media pages, because they also can drive traffic to your local business. Try to create content reflecting some local specifics, so providing some local information, and always try to respond to reviews. Inclusive web design, yeah, it's not good web design is not only about bright images and interesting content. It's also about creating platform what is accessible to customers with various needs. Some of people can experience visual, cognitive, physical disabilities. So try to pay attention to who your customers are and how to accommodate them. For example, some people cannot recognize well like red or green colors. Some people do not like perceive very well, can read like cursive decorative fonts. So keep that in mind and try to understand who your audiences are, and who you are trying to target. And the last one is the trend. Maybe it can be useful for companies, for news outlets who would like to rank higher on Google. It's Google Discover. So it's basically is the content feed that appears on Google mobile homepage. It provides users with personalized news, articles, stories, and Google use information that you have already like provided to it. It can analyze your web activity, your YouTube, the videos what you watch on YouTube, or your search queries as well. So if you're trying to rank, so for example, a media outlet or publication, you really would like to rank higher, try to create a very like authentic and try to provide expertise. Try to attract like higher like writers who are experts to increase your credibility. That can help you rank high as well. Yeah, thank you so much. I hope it was useful, and we can continue our discussion and share some other insights.
Thank you, Elvina. We have one question. Oh, the questions has answered. So we had one question. Okay, so it's, can zero-click searches results in low CTR for a web page? As impression would be there one position 0 but no click.
Yeah, so I just answered, yeah. So basically CTR is click-through rate. Hi everybody, sorry my video wasn't working. My name is Anđelka. So yeah, CTR is click-through rate. So meaning that if you have impressions, meaning if people are finding you in Google, but nobody's clicking, you'll have a low CTR because nobody's clicking. A low CTR can mean different things. It can mean that you are ranking low in Google searches or have some other issues. You're not being indexed. For some reason, Google is not finding you, or people are simply not Googling something in case you don't even have impressions as well. You can track all that in Google Search Console if you are doing this for SEO purposes. And if you're talking about Google Ads, then that's another matter. If you're talking about paid ads, And then low CTR usually means one of several things. Low budget, meaning that maybe you are showing up, but on lower parts of the page, or even a second page of Google. And it can also mean that maybe your ad is not optimized enough for what you're targeting. So you are popping up, but people are not actually looking for what you are promoting in the ad. So your CTR is low. So I hope I answered.
If there are any more questions, or no, so okay. So next one, anything you want to talk about?
I'm happy to talk a bit. I think Elvina made some really interesting, good points, particularly around zero-click searches and featured snippets being something that we see Google being more and more confident with.
Yes.
And for a business, there's obviously positives and negatives to this. The positive being that you're getting in front of people, but the negative being that maybe they're not coming through onto your website. I think one of the most interesting implementations of featured snippet that we're seeing increasing a lot in 2021 is video featured snippets.
Yeah.
I think now 55% of Google searches include at least one video. And it looks to us like searchers are more inclined to click on video snippets than they were, because Google's now doing a better job of transcribing and finding the specific place in the video that it wants to take a searcher through to. So that's only going to increase from our perspective, which for us and my name's Tim, I run Exposure Ninja Digital Agency. For us and our clients, there's good news and bad news about video kind of encroaching into what used to be a text-based search space. The good news is obviously that if you've got video, that's great, because you can, people are more willing to click on video than they used to be. The bad news is that the barrier to entry is higher for video than it is for text. But I think that's overall a really good thing, because if you're willing to invest in video for the brand, then it means that you're able to outcompete people who aren't. Text search is so crowded. Text SEO is becoming so crowded. So anything that kind of raises the benchmark and allows us to differentiate ourselves from the rest, I think is probably a good thing. And video definitely seems to be one of that thing. So for us, it's just about recommending adding timestamps in videos on YouTube, using YouTube predominantly. We'll also, if we're writing a post which we want to rank, we'll also make a video of that as well, and make sure that the video is included in the post so that we've got a couple of different opportunities to rank. But for us, video is a big one, 2021 going forward. I think there's lots of estimates about 82% of web traffic being video-based by the next 3 years. It's only going in one direction. If you look at how young people use the internet, it is video. So that seems to be very exciting for us.
What do you think about rich snippets for videos? Should a company take this, include in their SEO strategy to make special markups for the videos?
Yes, I mean, rich snippets, featured snippet, rich snippets and schema markup for everything. We're seeing product schema being really important. Like Google seems to be trying to provide more and more in the search results, so people don't even have to go to websites. This is the price that we pay for being at Google's mercy, that we're maybe not going to get as many people on our sites. There's going to be more zero-click searches. But yes, snippets for everything, schema for everything that you possibly can. We're just doing all of it.
So a good advice is for every company to make a schema markup concept for their web pages. I think it's important for the next years. So now Google has a new project, MUM, machine learning. So how do you think we should optimize our pages that they rank high for MUM? So have your opinion or something like this? Yes.
Can I just chime in on something else actually that Elvina mentioned? She mentioned the importance of accessibility of websites. So that's a very hot topic right now, especially whoever is working for the United States market, because as you know, in the United States, it's very much, like let's sue everybody for everything. So currently, a lot of companies are actually getting sued for being not accessible in terms of their websites. Because obviously they are not under discriminatory laws and non-discriminatory laws for people with disabilities, and a lot of acts in different states in America regarding that. And usually it's about physical space, right? But obviously everything is now in digital space. And the question is, are websites being accessible or not? And actually companies are getting sued for being not accessible enough with their websites or mobile apps or whatever it is that they have in their digital space. So that is actually becoming increasingly important, not only for Google. Obviously, for SEO purposes, it was always important. I mean, alt text literally became important from, right? They were derived from the whole accessibility standpoint, but now this is becoming increasingly important. My personal recommendation for everybody who is working, especially for the States right now, is to pay closer attention to this. There are several ways of testing the website when you're working on a website. Is it compliant? Is it accessible? You can use the text-to-speech software and just see if it works, right? If it works without any hiccups or issues on the site, that usually means it's compliant. If you don't want to be dealing with that, there are also different actually startups that are working on it right now, allowing you to have a website more accessible. They're usually AI powered, and it's basically just adding a snippet on the website that basically deals with everything that needs to be done in terms of accessibility. The good thing about those tools, at least from my experience right now, they don't make the site load slower, which is important for SEO. So they work basically externally, like external code. They don't slow it down like some Google snippets do. So just something as a suggestion, if you're thinking of going accessible with your website, take a look at some of those tools. I have good experiences with Accessibility. You can take a look. It's written as it sounds, and basically just install a snippet on the site. And what is really good about it, they have a disclaimer. Basically, if somebody says that your website is not compliant, they take all the blame. So you basically just, if you install it, that it's their problem from that point forward. So just as a suggestion.
Perfect. Something else to the presentation? Does somebody want to talk about?
I think I talked enough.
I just wanted to add a really quick point about zero-click searches, since we were discussing that. And video is getting more and more popular. I agree with that. And even we're expanding our content marketing strategies to include video and try to rank for those. And it is getting easier to rank with videos. But something that I'm seeing a resurgence right now is long-form blogs. Blogs are getting longer again. And why I see this happening is I see a lot of passage searches also showing up on Google, like not just the blog title and the meta description, but an actual passage from the blog that answers the user questions. So it's promoting zero-click searches. And also because of that, if your blogs are longer, suddenly you're not at a disadvantage anymore. So if you are going with text-based SEO, I would recommend your blogs become as long as possible again. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
I feel like this is tying it. Veronika, you asked about Google Mum, and I feel like the way that Google is going to force us all to go is that we all, if we're a commercial site about plumbing, for example, we end up with these huge knowledge bases all about plumbing and plumbing advice and home improvement and all this type of stuff, with this content potentially being, automatically translated into loads of different languages and having passages ranking for different informational queries. And it seems to be that this is the game we have to play. When I first started in 2012, you could rank a plumber's website really easily. Now it's, the bar keeps on raising. And I think that these kind of knowledge-based content hub type strategies, we find ourselves building content hubs for sites that 5 years ago could never have justified it. Businesses where sharing information and sharing advice just has never been part of their business plan. But because we're finding that we have to have this information content on the site in order to rank for the commercial terms, everyone has to invest more time into, like Sumux just said, longer form posts, more informational stuff. So it's just like we're being forced into that direction. Whether it's good or not, I don't know, but it's just the game we have to play right now, isn't it?
Yes. So we have one more question. Can you give me few practical steps or tips to implement NLP for SEO for Google while writing and optimizing the content? So who wants to answer?
I feel like I've got Anđelka's thing where I've spoken a lot. So I'm happy to answer, but also happy to be quiet if anybody else wants to.
Do you want to answer, Anđelka? No? So, Tim, start.
Okay. So I think the first thing is going back to Sumek's passages thing, breaking down the topic into different kind of questions or queries or subtopics. If you're going to make a long form post, start with, so when we're writing a long form piece, we'd first have some kind of snippet bait at the top, which would be, let's say that we're writing a post on how to rank in 2021. So we'd have the headline, obviously H1, the main phrase that we're targeting. Then we'd have some kind of snippet bait. So this would be a 40 to 60 word paragraph at the top, which we could see being used as a featured snippet for someone who was asking that question. And then we break the topic down into different kind of subsections, which would be questions that people ask. So you can find these in all sorts of places. You can go to Answer the Public and look at the questions people are asking. You can look at related questions in Google search results. And then your long form piece is going to be, a couple of paragraphs for each of these sub questions. And you're almost treating your page like a series of mini pages rather than just being necessarily one, longer piece, because it seems like attention spans are only going in one direction, and we need to be able to answer people's questions relatively quickly. If we're going to answer in more detail, we need to break that down so they can get to the content that's right for them. Then we'd usually have some kind of table of contents at the top, which allows people to go straight through to the section that's most relevant for them and answer in as much detail as the topic justifies. And that's pretty much it. We of course know the keywords that you want to rank for ahead of time, but once you know them, you might have them on a little tab on the side of the screen, but you don't need to go to in detail with keyword density and that type of stuff. We find as long as you're aware of them, they'll naturally come out through your writing, and you should be okay. So those would be my suggestions to get started.
Yeah, I think it's important to write for the user and not only for SEO. So the content must be a really good content and useful content, and then it works.
I'd like to add a little bit over here. It's not just enough to analyze the keyword and what kind of content you're going to write anymore. I think also mastering search intent is becoming quite important. Some keywords, you'd expect them to be transactional intent keywords, but they would be informational intent. A really nice example of this I find is protein powder, because whenever you search for protein powder, maximum of the search results are informational. And if you try to put transactional content up there, chances are that it's not going to rank. So I find it very important to analyze SERP results and try to match your content as much as possible with the intent that Google is showing.
So next one, any tips on how to effectively use the Google NLP API tool? Good question. So who can answer this? I can try to answer, but I'm guessing whoever is asking this is probably a developer. So it sounds like a developer question. We just like with it. The idea behind so what we're talking about here is basically Google AI that's built to understand the sentiment of what you're writing about. It's if you actually try playing around with it, it's still not perfect. For example, if you try analyzing certain data, it can do a pretty good job in understanding like wrong and right, like if something is positive or negative, and the overall idea of a particular text, a particular piece of content. But it gets lost with like nuances, like it doesn't understand sarcasm, it doesn't understand things like that. So what would you actually expect from an AI? It translates into what actually Google's Cloud Natural Language API does, is it's trying to help us actually not focus that much on keywords, which is what somebody was just talking about. Like for years now, Google has been telling us, write for the user, right? Create the content for the user. Basically, SEO will come if you are writing content people will like. You'll have
interactions with the content. People will find it obvious. You're going to use keywords that are going to come naturally to you if you're writing a piece of content about a certain topic, right? And if it makes sense, people will like you for it. They're gonna, gotta have backlinks organically and all that, right? So, but Google still couldn't really understand. Like Google could see if it's copy pasted, right? So that's been around for ages now. Like don't copy paste, right? No duplicated content. But we had issue in understanding, like if I'm looking for a particular thing, like for example recommendations for something. Am I gonna get the right search results? Is Google gonna understand actually if something is positive or negative, for example? So that's where they started building this. In terms of integrating that API with your website or whatever it is you're trying to do, it can be done. We only use it for translations. Does a pretty decent job. Obviously much easier than doing everything manually, especially if you want to have a website in a lot of languages. Again, I would still recommend doing it manually. If you're doing the website in just 1 or 2 languages for your specific target markets, and those are your target markets, I would always recommend doing it with somebody who's not an AI for reasons just stated above. But if you want to have a website that automatically translates to all the languages depending on your users geolocation or whatever, yes, definitely go for this. What they're playing with right now is basically understanding the syntaxes, analysis of the sentiment of the content, but it's still not working perfectly. So give it a go. Google always loves when somebody is using something that they're doing, even though sometimes it doesn't work. We all remember Google Plus, right? So sometimes it fails miserably, but yeah, give it a go. Currently, at least you're gonna be on the forefronts of who is actually using it correctly. If you're actually the developer, try. I'm sure Google will keep pushing it more and more in the future. Right now, not a perfect tool, but yeah, go for it.
Thank you very much. We have more questions, so it's a good one. Do backlinks still important in 2021? So what do you think about?
Yes.
There you go.
What kind of backlinks do you think are important? So I'm a fan from natural building backlinks. I'm not a fan from buying backlinks. I'm not a fan from using backlinks around, but I know every SEO has its own strategy about backlinks. So it's a hot topic. So go for it. Who wants to answer? Only yes?
So I just want to say one quick thing in this. So natural backlinks are always the best and they will always be the best, but I'm starting to find a lot of the backlinks that we bought and to, the ones that we get from the Web 2.0 sites, the ones that let us post content for free and link to our content, they're actually getting marked toxic by Google. So I don't think that might be a strategy that you might want to invest in anymore. So always go for natural backlinks, and backlinks are never not going to be important. Actually, right now, even if you don't have a backlink, but if you have like a mention in the blog of your content or your name or your expertise, then that has also been found to affect search results and help your content, even though it's not linking to you, but just mentioning you.
Yeah, just to add to that, we're finding that Google seems to be more and more confident using EAT, and seems like one of the sources of knowledge about a particular entity's authority is mentions as well as links. So whether it's the mention that's helping the site's ranking, or whether it's the mention that's helping the perceived authority of the entity that's writing it, which is helping the website's ranking, we're not too sure. But yeah, mentions seem to be working as well. For us, the sorts of links that are working, I mean, we're still in a crazy place where we're using domain authority as a gauge of a site's authority, and it still seems to be working. We're of course going after the highest authority links that we can, but I think we're seeing a lot of things around newsjacking and PR outreach and that type of stuff working well. A lot of this to me feels really outdated, if I'm honest. When I first started learning about SEO, this is like 8 years ago, I thought, well, surely backlinks are limited in their this feels a bit mental. It feels so easy to game, and the challenges that Google has between distinguishing a paid link and a free link, particularly on sites like Forbes, where it's about 50-50. How can they possibly trust it? But here we are, and they still seem to be working. So it's the game that we're still playing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We have more questions. This is one about video here. With the projection of videos being a new trend in marketing, can you recommend what length of video would be more practical for customers so as to avoid them from not viewing the video? Also, okay, 2 questions in one. So which length of the video would be more practical for customers that they view the video? So is there a strategy? So from my side, I only know it should not be more than 2 minutes, but I don't know. You're an expert at this point, Tim. So
we use video a lot. Actually, not we use it a bit for our clients, but we use it a huge amount for ourselves. And we find actually length isn't as important. It's almost like the same answer to the question, how long should a blog post be? Because Google is finding the section in a video. So the videos that we use are typically 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll do longer ones, which are up to an hour long. And Google's pretty good at finding the section in the video, which is kind of relevant. So I don't think there's like a single right answer. I think as long as you're concise about the answer somewhere in the video, Google's going to find that. There's also a kind of question about, should it be animated videos or more personal videos? Well, my perspective on this is you're not going to build a relationship with that customer with an animated video. So for a lot of businesses, this is the only, animated video is the only option they've got. But if you do have a figurehead in the business who can talk and who can build a relationship with people through video, if you imagine that person showing in a featured snippet, you don't want to just give that person that information through an animated video and then they have no kind of engagement with the brand at all. They have no recollection of the brand. Whereas if there is personality in there, at least you have a shot of getting them onto your YouTube channel, subscribing, whatever. So we would always kind of towards having a bit more personality in the video, something that people will remember you by, so that you've hopefully got a chance of building a relationship with that customer, rather than just giving them like, here's your piece of information in an animated video. Then you're just essentially funding Google's information database, right?
What is your advice for videos if they are longer than 3 minutes? Because if you put it on the website, the page speed goes down. So is it better for longer videos to put them on YouTube and make a link or something like this? Or
yeah, we'd always put them on YouTube. YouTube seems to rank better, and the little the little timestamps in the description as well really seem to help with ranking. So yeah, we'd always put them on YouTube.
Perfect. Thank you. So next question. Sorry,
just to add a few things over here. Tim did mention that Google's getting better at finding parts of your video that would be relevant, but it's never not a good idea to break up your videos into sections and to upload the transcript of your video to Google, to YouTube, to make it easier for them. And to answer your question, Veronika, regarding video length, I think it's important as to what part of the funnel the video is addressing, because if the person's already familiar with your business and they like you, they'd be willing to watch. I watch 30-40 minute videos of certain brands, but if I don't know the brand and they show me a 10-minute, 20-minute video, or even a 5-minute video, chances are I'm not going to watch it. So am I trying to get attention? Am I generating interest? What part of the AIDA funnel is the video for? I think that's what matters, determining the length.
So yes, we have one more question. Thank you. So until April 2021, almost all my target keywords were ranking on top 3 positions. But in May, after completely redesigning the website and upgrading the content user-centric and internal linking, I lost my rankings of all targeted keywords. How long does it usually take to get back to the top position again? Core Web Vital score is 10 to 10.
So I can try answer this. This is actually, I've seen a lot. It's normal to have a drop in rankings after a big redesign. So that's simply something that usually happens. But in situations like this, when you see a huge drop and it's not coming back, and you did everything right in terms of content, and even like the website being built per best standards, in technical terms, usually the issue might be that you missed some redirects. That's actually the most common situation, that you didn't map redirects correctly and you ended up with a bunch of 404s somewhere in Google Index. That's the most common situation. So I would check for that first. You wouldn't necessarily find them in Search Console. Sometimes they pop up, but I would use an external tool to screen everything in Google Index and see if I missed some of the those redirects. That's number one. Number two, do a deep dive into your technical SEO. Core Web Vitals are good. They're amazing. That's what Google is focusing on right now, but it's not everything. Core Web Vitals is mostly focused on UX and speed and mobile responsiveness, but there is whole other, there's a lot of other things that a site needs to have in order to be technically compliant for SEO. So do a deep dive into everything, into the code, check what's going on there. Check if you have all the, if you organize your website correctly as well. How is your user experience right now? Do you have breadcrumbs in place? Do you have orphan pages? All that stuff matters now. But usually the main culprit I look for when I have a situation like this with a client and their website, the current website, the new website, redesigned one is good, and they have good content on it. Assuming you have good content on it and you're actually know what you're saying, and you checked if it's not duplicated, you check for all the titles, you checked all the metas, you did your homework. Look for 404s. That's usually the most common culprit.
So I prefer Screaming Frog as a tool. So I take a look if there are technical issues, something like this. So maybe you can try it. So next question. Does it require to optimize the websites by device, like Android, iOS? If so, how to vary them while optimizing it? Oh, it's a good question. I think if you have a good responsive designed website, then you don't have to make a special optimizing. So the template is important. Take a look how it looks on the devices. And yes.
Yeah, I think maybe I can give us a recommendation there. Sorry. For example, we in-house, we use Browser Stack. Browser Stack is a tool that allows you to test on all devices. So you don't have to have all kinds of mobile phones in-house and all sorts of screen resolutions. You can test out, see how the website is being, if it's being responsive on all devices and all screen sizes. So maybe you can check that. If for any reason you need to know how it's performing on specific devices, because for example, it's a custom-made website and you're having issues with your developers that they can't do everything at once, try looking at your Google Analytics from before, see from which devices you're getting the most traffic from. So optimize for those first, if you need to be optimizing per devices or per screen sizes, and you can't do it all at once. So that would be my recommendation.
So which are major Google updates that have impacted SEO? SEO, sorry.
All of them, to be honest.
Yes, so
most recent.
So the last two, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, there are a lot updates in the last years. Panda.
I think the most significant one, at least that I've felt, has been the BERT update. I think that really pushed up voice search, because I was getting a lot of irrelevant search results as well for some voice queries. But after the BERT update, I've found like my search queries, the results for search queries, they're getting a lot more contextual and it's getting better. And also the most recent one also was a bit of a headache, the Core Web Vitals one that kind of gave us a whole new thing to work on and look at. So
see it as a chance. Every update from Google is a chance to rank higher, to be better at the competition. So don't see it as oh my God, it's the new update. No, it's a chance. So, and every core update is important. So I don't think we can make something about this. So here is, okay. As per Screaming Frog report, all 404 had been redirected to this alternated page.
Yeah, I was just about to type you a comment there. So did you check if it's being indexed correctly? Maybe, so something that I've seen, for example, happen is a mistake that, you know, like if it's not, like SSL was not redirected correctly, is everything set up correctly in Search Console? Did you change the domain? And if you did you alert Google about the change in Google Console? Obviously, I'm just throwing out ideas right now because I have no idea what the website is all about. But all of those things can be a reason why you have a sudden drop in rankings. If none of that is the case, then I think this would require some deep dive into what might be going on.
So you have to take a look step by step on your website and be patient. So it's not the same. If you make a relaunch, it doesn't mean that you have the same rankings like before. It's normal for most pages. So a little bit patient.
Yeah. You also asked how long it takes to go back to your rankings before the redesign. It of course depends on your niche, on the industry, on you know, like what your rankings were before, what your competition has been doing in the meantime. Yes. So all that is gonna affect that answer. So again, we don't have any information how long have you been experiencing that drop, but if it's been like a few weeks or something, you definitely have nothing to worry about. But in any case, you should do a detailed check of your website.
So, okay, there's no answer more. So have anybody a topic you want to talk about? What's important for? Oh, it's the next. Are exact keyword match domains names still add value?
Well, they're not the home run that they used to be, right? I remember being able to rank a site before it was even finished based on the domain alone. Those are the glory days. No, I mean we don't have that benefit anymore. But I mean, usually when you include a keyword in the URL, you get an increase in click-through rate. So there's a kind of secondary benefit to be had from that. But it's certainly not the be-all and end-all that it used to be. And if it comes at the expense of brand recognition, then that's generally not a good thing. So look at it as a click-through rate tool rather than a purely ranking tool, I'd say.
Perfect. So for 2021, how do you think voice search will change? So at the moment, we see Google likes long questions, they don't like the short keywords. So ranking have changed a lot at this point, and maybe it's because of the voice search. So what do you think about how important and how we can optimize our pages like this way?
So as I mentioned at the beginning, I mean, if you try to create content for a voice search, try to use very long tail keywords because it's natural way to express, to ask questions. So what is the nearest like barbershop nearby? You can integrate the question in your content and provide really like answer. And also try to keep up to date your all information, because I think like half or even more like voice searches are related to local business. So it's a great tool to drive traffic to your local, like to your company that provide very like local based services. So your content, like try to use also conversational language, because it's the way how people communicate, and that's how it works right now. Maybe my colleagues can add something else.
I want to say that I think optimizing for voice search is also very heavily dependent on your niche. There are some niches that have keywords that are very complicated, and the text recognizer, the speech recognizer, it can't really pick up what you're saying. So I think it's important to know, do you have easy to pronounce keywords? And if you do, then you should optimize for voice search. If you don't, I won't say not do it, but I would say try not to make that your primary SEO strategy, optimizing for voice search, especially if you're in a complicated niche.
Perfect. So, any advices how we can rank our websites better in the next years?
I think someone asked John Mueller what the top ranking factor was in like 2017, and he said awesomeness. And I feel like that seems to be like where we're continuing to go. I know that it's so boring to just say user experience is everything and build the best, most useful site you possibly can, but I think it's boring because everyone's saying it because it's right. I don't know if the other panelists will agree, but we're finding with successive algorithm updates, it's more and more difficult to pinpoint exactly what the cause of any changes are and what the commonalities are. And instead, we're just playing this game of just trying to make things better and trying to make experience faster. And we're looking at pages which have improved in ranking and versus pages that have lost ranking and saying what are the differences, and we're increasingly just coming to the conclusion this page is better. And whether it's because the algorithm's getting more complex and it's more able to differentiate things which are previously kind of unconscious, I don't know, but this kind of better thing just seems to be a thread, and it looks like that's what we're going to be playing for a long time.
Thank you. Next question. What is a better practice? Using a long 2000 word content without a video, or to use a 500 words content with a video embedded?
I just want to say, why not use a 2000 word?
Yeah, option C, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I can say that it's better to keep in mind your audience and who you're planning to target. So it's not just some technical stuff, but sometimes you really can integrate different types of content. And for some people, maybe it's very convenient for your audience to read how people consume your content. If, for example, for me, sometimes it's easy to read text because I am like outside and I'm not able to listen to a video right now. But try to understand your audience. How usually they consume your content. If, for example, if your target audience people who have like lunch breaks and they really want to learn something during lunch break, maybe like 10 minutes video, it would be just perfect for them. So from marketing point of view, like from marketing perspective, I can add just try to understand your audience and how they consume your content.
And you can make an A/B test too. So try to understand
yes,
better,
absolutely.
make
absolutely.
more versions and try to test it. So I think it's not easy to answer because yes, every target group has their own needs. So I would test it. So
and you can use TubeBuddy to see what sort of keyword search volume there is on YouTube as well. So if people are actually searching for this topic on YouTube, then chances are it might be something they're interested in watching a video. But yeah, like you say, if it's something that people are looking at on their lunch break, or it's something like, why does it hurt when I pee? That's probably not something where they're going to want the sound broadcasting out of their phone to those all around them. So yeah, intent.
Thank you. So there's no questions. Have anyone another questions?
I've got a question for the rest of the panel. If we're having this conversation in 10 years' time, where do you think we're at? Savage. Good luck.
Good luck. It's a good question, yes. So
I'm asking because I want to know.
Okay, so
I don't know, maybe optimizing for virtual reality, something like
yes. Yes, it's a good point. So I think we get nearer than 10 years. So
I think there's like deep research going on into reading brainwave patterns. So maybe instead of optimizing for voice, you optimize for thought, and you get answers about what you're thinking.
You know, sometimes I see some ads or content, and actually sometimes it's quite surprising because I didn't Google it. I just was thinking about it, and sometimes really I'm a bit suspicious, but yeah, maybe they're just analyzing my traffic.
yes.
I actually think that's the future. Like in 10 years, I actually think nobody will be using Google because of data privacy, and everybody will become increasingly aware of what kind of data big players on the internet have about us, and probably will use more other search engines that are more wary of data privacy, and maybe even some other ways of searching internet. So I think that's actually where we're heading right now. And actually, I think it wouldn't be such a bad thing. Google has been the main player for too long.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's true, because, for example, right now, Canada and Australia, they are trying to work with Google somehow to compete. I mean, to give more power to local websites, because right now they are even trying to ask Google to pay for local content. And for example, Australia, I think right now is trying to get it done. So let's see, because Google right now is the really dominant player.
I kind of have a follow-up question. Sorry, I've taken the job of an attendee, but I have a follow-up question, because if we're seeing, you're right, we're seeing more legislation, we're seeing governments more willing to take on the tech giants and label them as monopolies and things like that, and that's only going to lead to kind of reduced data, and we've got all these privacy issues as well. Do we think that that's going to hamper Google's ability to serve tailored results? Because Elvina, the reason you're seeing the content, right, is because they have huge amounts of data about you that they're able to predict your desires before you're even aware of them. This is really going to hurt Google, right? And are we going to see a search engine which can exist without that? Is it possible to build a better search engine that exists without data? Where does this take us?
Well, I mean, it's already hampering Facebook. So if you're trying to do custom audiences, retargeting on Facebook, it's already causing a huge issue for marketers, right? And obviously, yeah, it will affect that. But I mean, it's been going on for a while. GDPR in Europe, and then everything with Zuckerberg, and then the whole thing that happened with whose name won't be mentioned, right? And all that, and then the new privacy laws. Definitely bad news for marketers, but on the other hand, it's actually making us try more and work harder and actually produce content that people will like and find on their own. We're actually going back in time into the Google days of actually like word of mouth, and actually having to make your clients love you. We're actually bringing back that fourth piece of the funnel, which is not only the conversion is not the goal, loyalty is the goal. Like let's build some loyal consumers of our brand. Let's serve them with what they need. Let's answer their needs. Let's not just hope that we'll get them to our site any way that we can, and then we're just going to bombard them with ads and hope for the best. At some point they're going to come back to our site and buy something just to like stop seeing our ads, right? So that was basically what a lot of people were doing in marketing, and maybe it is time to put an end to it. So I'm not necessarily against it. I think that it's a good way to go. And on a more personal note, as a user of said things, yeah, definitely a better way to go.
Answer Tim's question. Yes, data privacy laws are going to make it difficult, but I think it's going to hamper the advertising industry a lot more than it will SEO, because I think there's a little bit of disconnect between the kind of data the big tech giants have about you and the kind of search results that you see. But sorry, excuse me. Having said that, what I do feel is like I do agree with Anđelka as well. Online marketing is getting a lot more direct, and with data privacy laws, yes, you are not going to be able to collect user data as much anymore. But it does not stop you from the users from volunteering their data yourself to you. So if you provide them value, if you give them things they're looking for, if you give them the answers you're looking for, if you basically please them, then I don't think it's going to hamper marketing a lot. Marketing strategies are definitely going to change. And I think the advertising industry is going to see a major upheaval due to these laws. But SEO, I don't see a lot of effect. Maybe some, but not a lot.
Yes, maybe we have to make more for the target groups special target groups for our websites and not trying to get as much traffic as we want to have a conversion, to have a lead for the sales guys. So yes, I have one last question. How do you handle international SEO? So I have a lot of questions. How they use, which text should they use that it works? So an example, it's a website, it's a global website. They have their own texts, so they don't have a copy of the texts. But how do you handle global websites? Or which text do you use that Google knows, okay, there is a Norwegian website, there is a Denmark website, something like this. Which tools or which tags? Have you any advice for this?
So I can maybe start.
Okay.
First of all, so I would maybe want to do a little disclaimer because usually when clients come to me and say I have, my target is whole world, I'm usually very suspicious about it. I'm sure your product is amazing and everybody needs it, but I would maybe try to tone it down, especially if you're just starting out, and try to identify several target markets that are the best for me as a general marketing strategy, not only for SEO. So, maybe not go crazy at the beginning. If you are definitely sure that whole world is your oyster, sure. But in that case, so first of all, let's see again, you do know which countries are your primary targets. Again, you'll be aware where you want to go. And I'm guessing you're not only relying on SEO, so where are you doing your Facebook ads? Who are you targeting with your Instagram? Where are you going with your Google ads, right? Where are you doing your PR? So, you have some idea who your main target markets are. Let's start with that. So let's optimize for them first. Let's discuss which search engines are being used on those target markets. Google may be the main player, but not the only one. Let's see if we need optimizing for anybody else. Are we going with Russia? Okay, Russia is a whole other thing, right? Okay,
Yandex.
Exactly. Let's think about that as well. Let's think about of course, the translations. We talked about that. Are we going to do it automatically? Are we going to use Google's API? Are we going to do it manually? Obviously, manual is always better, but of course, time consuming and money consuming. So, let's weigh the two. Let's discuss about URL structure. It has to be international. Let's see how it's going to be. Like, it's going to be subdomains, or is it going to be like / and then the name of the country or the language, right? How are we going to do that? Are we building it in WordPress? If it's WordPress, is it going to be like WPML, or what's it going to be, Polylang? All those sorts of plugins have their own issues that might occur. If you're thinking between the two, I would usually recommend WPML because it has more features, but of course, Polylang is free. So again, depending on your budgets, right? If it's a custom website, again, let's discuss with the developers how we are going to organize the structure first. Href tags, how they're going to be distributed across the website. So all that sort of stuff, even before you start thinking about the content and the keywords, the keyword research is the easier part. Input your market. Let's do that. Let's do the research using any tool you want, but let's start with this, like how to organize the website first. And it's a huge question because once you determine how it's going to be organized, it's very hard to change it later. You're going to have a lot of redirects and have a lot of issues if you didn't determine the structure correctly. So the question number one would be which markets you actually want to target. Be true to yourself. And if you are really going internationally, okay, let's see if it's going to be like subdomains or, what kind of structure we're going to do before we go anywhere else with that. So that's my 2 cents. I'm going to shut up now.
Thank you very much. We are at the end of our panel. So thank you guys. It was really interesting. So
thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. Great to meet you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. And, all the panelists and moderator, thank you so much.